Welcome to the Weekend Power Platform podcast, where builders, dreamers, and weekend warriors come to level up. I'm Shawn, and every episode we dive into real stories, smart tips, and the creative magic behind the Power Platform and AI. Let's get into it. Hi, welcome. Today we're joined here with Molly, and we're going to dive in and really talk about her journey of building her own community, the vibe, partnership, business side, the growth, and just how this journey, how it shaped and come along. So we're just going to talk through the journey with Molly. Welcome.
Thank you, Shawn. What an honor to be here as one of your newer podcast guests. I'm so honored that you asked. Happy to have some conversation today. Really loving what you're doing for the community in this way. So
Yeah.
congrats to you on getting this going.
Yes, and thank you for joining. Yes, this is under 10 episodes, so
Oh my gosh, I'm just honored then. Thanks for having me.
yeah, I'm excited. And I'm excited to talk about, your journey and, what you're doing in the community too, because, the Weekend Power platform and the podcast and what we're doing is just really working with the community and learning and growing. So I'd love to hear, from your perspective, what it's been like to be in the community and, kind of go in and start your own community from scratch and what that looks like and how that was.
Absolutely excited to dive in. So myself and my business partner, Liz Hallen, who's also been a familiar face in our greater community for over 20 years. We, of course, both learned a lot about community in our time together at Dynamic Communities, which was wonderful. Liz had a career also at Microsoft before that. So she really understands and knows how to build community and do it the right way and how to do it so thoughtfully. And I really learned a lot from her. And we actually have known each other now for over 10 years, which is hard to believe. But yes, we grew up together learning how to build community, again, being thoughtful, being mindful, and not being afraid to ask people to help. I think that's the biggest thing. I always tell people I could never do like a development officer job at a nonprofit. But then when I think about it, it's like, but really, that's what building community is continuously asking people to help, asking people to come together, asking people to learn together, to grow together. So maybe I'm not that far off. Maybe that'll be a good retirement job for me someday. Um, yes, then of course, Liz and I went to Dynamics User Group, also known as Doug, which was a wonderful experience together. We were there for 5 years, and really we both just hit kind of a growth point and said, I think we're ready to do this on our own. And we think that there's a missing gap. There's definitely a gap for our partners across the product stack. So of course, Liz and I have a background traditionally in the Dynamics and Power Platform uh, users and partner base. But there's so many partners out there who we just didn't feel like we're getting served in the right same ways. So whether it's Copilot, Azure, Fabric, security, modern work, Teams, M365, we just felt like there was more we could be doing with that underserved group and community. Fast forward now, we started partner in on August 1st of 2025. Our baby is just still a baby. Yeah.
Congratulations. So
Thank you.
excited.
And certainly we are so incredibly grateful for people just like you and others, particularly in that D365 Empower platform, AI and Copilot community that have really grown up with us, frankly, and really taught us a lot about how to build community successfully. And now we're really enjoying getting to know some of the wonderful, familiar and new names across, again, all of those other products in the partner space specifically. So we're kind of starting all over again and building community, and we're loving it. It's going slower probably than I would like some of the time, but that's, again, we have to thank Liz Hallen. She's very good about reminding me it's the thoughtfulness and just doing it the right way and at the right pace and not just trying to build by numbers, but really build by relationships.
Yeah, I love that, and that actually just makes me think about, really finding that partner that you can work with, and it's like, yeah, some people like to just go, we're on a speedboat and we're flying, right? And then the other person's like, "Did we bring life jackets? Did we bring, like, all this stuff?" And it's like, "No, we just got on the boat and we just went. We went for it." And so I think that's what kinda makes, this community and building those kind of relationships, it's like you need all of those people, right? You need that thing, or you're going to get to the island and you'll have nothing if you go by yourself, right? And then some people, they're not even in the boat.
Oh,
They're not even in the speedboat.
unprepared.
They're
Yeah.
paddling along.
It turned into the Gilligan's Island of community before we know it.
And then you're like, well, I bought floaties. I don't know why I couldn't make it there. But yeah, I love this journey of doing that and just finding people in the community that raise you up, that work with you, and everybody's kind of grounded that way, I think. So that I love that. So I know when you guys were setting out to create Vibe, what was like that you had your kind of your intention of what that looked like? Now coming into it a year later, have there been things that when you first started, you had in mind you were going to do this, and now getting in, you're adjusting and making changes, and what are some of those kind of things that you and Liz have been doing in the last year or so?
Yes, great question. So Vibe ended up turning into something we didn't anticipate, but in a better way than we anticipated. I mean, we're also a lot of our role, especially in Partner In right now, is conference life, so event planning. And we wanted it to be different. To be honest, we weren't 100% sure how, but we knew what our strength was again, bringing people together in an authentic way, and not just for forced networking activities, but really sitting down, getting to know one another. And we had this beautiful opportunity because we knew it was going to be a smaller, more intimate event. So we really wanted to channel that. And because of people in the community, we had said, hey, we really think we should focus and concentrate on roundtables, for example, instead of the traditional breakout session where someone is teaching you, kind of more talking at you and everyone's listening. Partners have this beautiful, magical side to them where they can talk pretty endlessly and very comfortably and be very open. And there was such a switch even at Vibe 1.0 in January of this year that day one, you could tell everybody was a little, I'd say, traditionally conference guarded. You're kind of seeing what you maybe call a competitor, things like that. But by the second day, everybody's barriers just went down. Everyone came with their most vulnerable selves. I think they really appreciated all of the talking opportunities. And let me tell you what, Shawn, oh my goodness, we could not get these roundtable sessions to wrap up on time to save our soul. And that was fine. It was, it was like everyone had so much to say. And I remember hearing from, I'd say, the presenter or the lead of those roundtable discussions in particular, they'd say, well, I got about 35% of the way done through the content I was hoping, because the conversation was just endless. And even for having smaller groups of people, so maybe there'd be a roundtable with around 20 people in the room, it was so loud in there. Our camera and videographer helpers said, wow, like it was hard to catch all of the voices because they were all talking at once and everybody had so much to contribute. And I said, that's our partners.
Yeah.
Never shy. So it was wonderful. And I think that's really our niche that we found, is letting people know they come as their vulnerable selves. Yes, maybe there is a competitor here, but you all have a lot to learn from each other. Nobody came into the rooms thinking, I know more than you. Everyone came to the room with, this is my time to learn. And that's exactly what we wanted. There is a different dynamic too when there's no users. This is just partners. So it's partners only. And then, of course, wonderful folks from Microsoft as well who want to participate and hear the honest feedback that some of the partners have, good and maybe not so great, from Microsoft at times, but they were there and very open to hearing that as well. So that was our big success that came out of it, and that we're definitely going to focus in on for the 2.0.
Well, I just came back from directions yesterday, and I wasn't going to talk too much about it, but what you did just trigger me is that you are 100% right. So I went to some roundtable discussions, and it was great. It was, everybody has a lot to say and experiences and be able to talk through them, and how I'm looking at things, are different than maybe the developer, or maybe, somebody else who's more customer focused and, has, I mean, some people have very sophisticated customers. And so one of the things we were talking about is in this agent, it's meant for the developers to develop the agent. And I started questioning, like, why can't the consultants do that? I mean, in Copilot Studio, I don't necessarily need a developer to do code for that, right? And so I'm challenging, like, why we're saying for the agents in Business Central, we need a developer. I do think if there's triggers, I do think there's a spot for that, but I don't think it's just that one. And then somebody came up and said, "Well, would you want your customers to do it?" And everybody's like, "Oh, no, 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 no." And I'm like, "Maybe though, right?
Right?
What if you have a
Right.
very sophisticated customer that has developers and has solution architects?" And I have some teams that, yes, there are some customers that I would say, absolutely not, right? And they're over here trying to protect all these things. But anyway, the point is like, it was such a good conversation because Microsoft came in and I know they were planning to speak to a room full of developers. I can tell that. Because then they're
Interesting.
like, is there consultants in the room? We're like, yes, there's consultants. And then, it's just that collaboration of, conversation. So I
I
love
love that.
that. The other thing that I came away from is I feel like we need a few more workshops because we had a lot of stuff to show. And even the session that I did with Matt and Kim with the Weekend Power Platform, we could have had a
Yes.
whole working session on how to dive in, how we built it, what we went through and things like that. So I love the roundtable. I love the workshops. And I think that that's really where partners and people get a lot of value out of it instead of going to a 30, 40-minute session that it was just like, oh my God,
Mhm.
okay, I'm still on the first 10 minutes of the session, right? Like processing everything.
I think you're absolutely right. We did a few extended sessions, maybe call them mini workshops, where they were the 120 minutes, so the 2 hours, the break in the middle. And those were very popular as well. So I think you're absolutely right. I'm hoping we do get at least a good handful of those back as well, because there is certain topics, especially that you do need more time to really dive into. And I mean, a lot of it is, I'd say, more developers, but not always either. So I think that's a great idea. And I totally agree with you. I would be curious if you don't mind me asking, one other thing that we've tried to emphasize that I believe Directions tries to do this as much as they can for their audience, which is different than ours. But we kind of focus on 300 and 400 level content. So we try to actually do more of the advanced content. We do mix in a little bit of 100 and 200 level, but we try to really make the content as valuable as it can be for the short amount of time that we're together. What did you see at Directions in terms of if there were content levels at all on the sessions?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'd have to go back and really look, but I think there were a lot
Sure.
of 100, 200
Yeah.
ones, and maybe there was a little bit more deep dive that were 3,
Sure.
400,
Sure. That makes
maybe a
sense.
little bit longer sessions, but, yeah, I do feel like it was 1 to 2.
Which is probably perfect for their audience too. They have a great audience and they know their audience very well. They've been doing this very successfully for some time now.
Yeah, yeah, and so like I said, they were great sessions, a
Awesome.
ton of things, but yeah, I would say just the collaboration, the workshop ones or not workshop, but, the round table were really some of my favorite ones.
Sure looked like a great week. I really, really enjoyed keeping up with everyone's posts on LinkedIn and reaching out to folks. It sounded like it was very, very well done and everyone got a lot out of it. So that's great.
You touched on something else that made me think too is just, having like that safe space or that when you first come in, you're right. These we're partners and like I might have lost a customer to this person and they might have, won a deal off of mine and, all of that stuff. But, as we go in and start collaborating together, it's like being able to share our ideas and just get rid of not boundary, the border there and just be able to have real honest questions and conversations and stuff like that, so I love that.
And I believe one of your early guests, Michelle Serna, actually was the one when we did a feedback session on the last day at the first Five event who said this was a safe space. So it's funny you say that. Those are her exact words. And I thought that was beautifully put.
I feel like Michelle and I met and, yeah, I feel like we have a lot of this similar things because we go to Power Platform
Sure.
and,
Sure.
yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Quite
Um
the duo.
Other thing that you mentioned too, and I think you're right, is just the whole Microsoft ecosystem. And so a lot of times we get in, I mean, I've been in Business Central now for a very long time. I realized that I started in a version before Tom Blaisdell, and I did not realize that till this week. I thought we started around the same time, I don't know. But, you get in that software, but then there's Power Platform, there's CE, there's, M365. Now we got
Right.
Copilot and we've got Claude and we've got all kinds of different things. It's not just that one closed system and being able to integrate those and talk through the different ones. So that way ultimately what you want to do is when you're having sessions with the customer, going through requirements and giving them the best solution possible. Maybe it is developing in Business Central. Maybe it is Power Apps or Power Automate or some of the other, there's all kinds of things in the ecosystem. But anyway, I don't want to dive in too deep here. Molly, we would be building an app right now if you let me go too far.
I know. I was going to say, let's do it.
Let's
It's
do
your
it. Let's do it.
podcast. You can do whatever you want.
That's the other thing that Michelle and I share too, I think, is that I wanted to learn Power Apps, so I went out and built a cow app for my dad to learn Power Apps.
Oh,
She wanted to learn it, and so she built one. I think it was like for tracking some of the things that they were doing with like steps and some of the initiatives they had at
very
their
well.
company, more cultures type stuff. But yeah, it's like
Love it.
just get in and build it, and that's how we learn and go from there.
You guys. I love that.
Okay, so let's dive in a little bit of how you measure success and what does that look like? Is it, you've got the dollar and the financial, you've got connections,
Mhm.
all your social media, outreach and engagements, growth. What does that look like for you and Liz for measuring?
Great. I think, and something maybe you and I are going to touch on is a lot of that was we have a business coach that we worked with to get our company launched. And there was a lot of the traditional metrics that she suggested we use, whether it's a SWOT analysis, your financial details, just setting yourselves goals and timelines. So again, more that traditional approach. I think we do balance our business to some degree using traditional measures. However, this is such a unique business that takes time to build. Maybe our financials is not where we'd want it to be in the long run, but it's building community. I mean, it's not, again, we have to kind of go at the right relationship pace, and relationship and dollars do not, like, there's a reason they're not meant to lace up together necessarily. We measure ours on, are we giving people what they want? Are we getting good feedback? Really, like, is this what people want? Do people want Vibe 2.0? When do they want it? What are they engaging with the most? And so that's been to your point, using social media, using email metrics, things like that, just asking people, checking in. We do a lot of that. We call people up in the community and say, hey, do you like what you're seeing from us? Would you like to see something different? Would you like us to take something away? We just do a lot of pulse checks. And I know there's not a nice black and white way to track that, but we find good measure in that because we're able to pivot pretty quickly too when things aren't working very well. We learned even at Vibe 1.0, there were some things that just didn't land and some things did. And we're not afraid to try new things either. And the new things we try are at the suggestions of the community almost always, because they know what they want. They know what is worth their time for being there. We understand, especially in conference world, what people are taking time away from customers, billable hours, potentially just their own workload, their families. So we have to make it worth their time. And then also adding on the extension with the Right Way AI team, offering something that's more around the calendar year instead of just an event was really important to us. And so that's been one measurable thing that we're looking at, as well as launching that partnership and program.
Yeah, that's it. That's exciting. Yeah. Yeah, talk a little bit about, because you mentioned you hired a business coach, and I know some people who use business coach, a lot of people thinking about, especially when you first start out, and even companies that have been around for a long time. What's been your experience with a business coach? Do you recommend the listeners, if you're kind of on the fence, hiring one, would you do that? And talk a little bit about that.
So we are very blessed. Both Liz and I live in North Dakota, and there is a program that is offered for new business entrepreneurs where you actually are given a business coach at no cost through the Small Business Bureau of North Dakota. And it's a wonderful resource. I would encourage everyone to first check out what their own state resources are, because my understanding is sometimes you actually can get a very discounted rate on someone. And this woman was fantastic. She just really helped us get organized in the beginning, think about all the things that, I mean, frankly, might not work out as rosy as we want them to, and really have plans in place for that, and pivots, and the legalities of a partnership was something, especially in our situation, because we do both own the business. So we just needed to do that the right way and structure it out of the gate correctly. And we did that with her. We don't work with her as much. Her strength is really getting you off the ground, but we were really, really grateful. She gave us, I mean, Liz and I sat down for a whole weekend and we went through an entire start your business packet. And here's all the questions. It was pages and pages, and it really made Liz and I sit with concentrated effort and time and really think through all these different scenarios in the business. And you're never going to be able to predict exactly where your business is going to go, but it's really important, especially in a partnership, that the two of you talk through different types of scenario. Because again, it's not all going to be great. There's going to be things that happen that that you didn't want to happen or can't control. And so it's really good for her and I to get on an alignment. And some things we agreed on easy peasy and some things we don't, but it was also a great exercise in just reminding us that between Liz and I, we have a wonderful partnership. We respect each other so much, even when there's certain decisions we don't agree with maybe on the other person. We just know which one of us it's more important to, and we just let that person make that decision because we know it's best for the community, it's best for partner in, it's best for the two of us in our relationship. So I would recommend to anyone that's listening, whether you're doing a sole proprietorship or you are going into an actual partnership, check out your state resources. Again, that was such a beautiful offering to us. I know people can pay a lot of money for a business coach. And yeah, it's worth it though. It just helps you really get aligned, organized. And it really also helps you, those traditional questions of who's your competitor? Well, there was pages on tell us about your market, tell us about your competitors, but in a very detailed way. It just really helped us think through all the things that inevitably and have already come up for us. So
Right.
highly recommend.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you're right. There's probably stuff that you just don't even think about
Right.
to do.
Yeah, correct.
So in your plan, so you have your business coach and you've got, all your stuff lined up. Do you and Liz, meet on a regular basis to do planning? How like we have the traditional like let's plan out a year, let's plan out 6 months, quarter. What is your planning strategy, and has it kind of changed going into what are we going into year 2 for you guys as your business?
Yeah, great question. Couple different pieces to that answers. Liz and I talk pretty much every day. So we're very close in that way. This has definitely bonded us in a deeper way, just because we are so integrated into the business with each other, and we generally or genuinely care about one another, of course, too, in and outside of partnering. So just what's going on with our families and things like that, and we're both very caring people and always want to make sure the other person is doing just as well in home life as they are in partner in and community land. So I love that about our relationship. I would say this is where we've kind of gotten a little lax, to be honest, of that strategic, okay, every quarter we're going to talk about this, every 6 months we're going to touch on this. We've gotten a little lax because we realize we probably need a little bit of a different process for our type of business. So we actually are going to start working with someone in our community as well, who's going to be doing this person's going to be going out on their own and doing some business development to kind of help you get organized into that next phase of your business. And this individual works with new businesses who have grown but are kind of stuck at a growth point and need to get to that next level. So we're very excited to work with this individual. Probably will help us get a little bit more on track again for what our specific business needs. And I just want to say this to everybody. You can go in with all the amazing intentions of being the most organized, but life happens. And it's always good to just ask for help from someone who really can help you get back in alignment. So that's what we're looking to do. And we're very excited about that. We do think it'll just help us better serve the community overall in the end. So we're excited to take that next step with that individual.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Mhm.
I can't wait till I'll have to have you on again, and we can talk through like,
Oh,
how that was
that'd
working
be
and maybe some like,
wonderful.
you know,
That would be wonderful.
advice for people. Is there anything that you could challenge the listeners to do this weekend, or whether it's even like in life and business, and if you want to start a new adventure, anything like that you could encourage?
Sure. So obviously, I'm going to use our big leap of starting our own company and leaving the Doug community specifically as employees there. We're always a part of the community, and we hope they're always a part of ours, right? We're all a part of the greater community together. So I would say give it a shot. You have nothing to lose, whether it's starting a new hobby, whether it's taking the leap and starting a whole new business, whether it's learning a new sport, just take the leap. I know one thing that when you and I were prepping for this beautiful opportunity, you had said, would you do it all over again? And yes, both Liz and I absolutely would. It's the biggest thing is just taking the risk and doing it. And I think we get in our own way a lot of the time. We talk ourselves out of things. So like I said, even if you want to take up crocheting or something, just do it. Get online. There's so many resources. Do it. I mean, we just get in our own way. So take the risk, try something new, bigger, small, personal, work related. It's worth it. You will be better for the try.
And I think to that too, I am a big like just try it, what's the worst that will happen? It's kind of how I've lived. That's how I've raised my kids. But sometimes you have to think about it too, just because you go into this doing this one thing and you get in and maybe you maybe you do something a little bit different. It doesn't look like it did when you first jumped in. I think being able to change and pivot and make some adjustments and not just say, okay, I said I was going to do this and this is the road I have to go down. You don't have to. It might turn over here and there, and you might, instead of crocheting, you might now, build a quilt, and you might now decide like, hey, I want to, do this pin stuff, whatever the case is.
Shawn, no truer words have ever been spoken. That's so life in so many instances. That's so spot on.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So is there anything you want to leave our listeners with today other than, just go out and just do it?
Go out and do it. Definitely would love to connect with your listeners. I'm on LinkedIn, Molly Fuchsel. You'll find Partner In as our company. We'd love to meet you if we haven't had the opportunity to meet you before. And lastly, of course, a big thank you to you, Shawn, for this opportunity. And it was great to chat with you. You're such a naturalist at this. So thank you for the time, and thanks for what you're delivering to the community this way.
Yeah. Yes, and thank you. And I'm looking forward to now. I've got all kinds of ideas for your next Vibe. Maybe not Vibe 2.0, but Vibe 2.3. Okay. Yeah, and I love everything that you guys are doing too, and it's great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for joining today.
Have a great day.
You too.